I figured I'd do one of these direct uploads, kind of a response video to Jay, I think. Sort of. Wasn't really going to do this on this channel. Was going to just do the same kind of video over and over again, but it doesn't matter, really. Yeah, really doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah, I sort of, he did kind of, he's been kind of down, kind of lamenting. Long way to go kind of thing. How you going to convince people? It's just, it's just so impossible. This whole idea of like, oh, we should understand that life is stupid and just kind of give up on it. Yeah, and humans are just so, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. I mean, that is the psychology. It just dominates all over the place. I mean, you tell somebody, well, I got, every organ in my body has got cancer, and and they'll just, we'll keep fighting, oh, well, good luck, like it's always worth trying to float the boats. There's no such thing as something too broken. But anyway, I think the point is that unlike any other time in history, we have the argument, and we have it in kind of a complete form now. I think, at least I feel more comfortable that way. More That's sort of why I'm even more confident than ever before. Is that the whole picture is starting to resolve in terms of you can put this biology and this chemistry and the physics and all this crap together, and you can just see how we're being played by this molecule, and you can write this whole story. The lamenters of the past, the people who weren't too sure we were on the right train, they really didn't have the whole argument to put on the plate and say, look at the whole, look, when you see the whole thing, you can see it's just all crap. When you can get that broad perspective kind of thing and not get distracted by the nonsense. And but the same obstacle exists in the sense you got all these religious people, all these bad belief systems that are in people's heads, and somehow you have to get those out. And I talk about that a lot, but that's sort of the game. It isn't that we don't have a good enough argument. It's that it's not an argument that's made for demolishing what's already in their heads. And you have to do that first. You have to get the bad gas out before you shove the good gas in, or however you want to metaphor it. And that's part of the problem. But that's sort of what I'm saying, though, is that we have something now, in terms of an argument, post-Darwin, this whole idea of atheist 2.0, I sort of find that appealing as another way of creating this crowbar to get the crap out of people's heads, the presumptions and the psychology that so dominates most people's philosophy. Where there's no uh, they haven't acquired the principles required, the logical principles, to understand the traps, to understand what they're not allowed to do, and they watch themselves do it, and they do it, and I mean, there's just no doubt. And I think in even explaining that, saying the gotcha thing, I mean, just acknowledging that I can see what you're doing, okay? You're just molding the truth to fit what you wish it to be, and you're doing it quite dishonestly. See what you just did there in that stupid argument you just made, or that kind of thing. I mean, I think we can trap them into admission, submission. And like a lot of this stuff, it just takes time. Sometimes, people get it. It's like there's a lot of people right now who will call themselves religious, but they're completely, they're atheists. They just can't admit it. They can't say that word. They can't acknowledge that they've made that transition, and so they're really there, but they're just playing denial games now, and they'll defend it just because they need to defend it, because that's what they've done, and that's what they've always been. And they just can't make that jump. They just can't transition from a place that's warm to a place that looks like it's going to be awful cold. And I guess that's another thing we have to acknowledge, is that the only thing that is going to motivate people is a more complex um, notion of will or principle or ideal. It's not going to be there. It's not going to be intuitive. It's not going to be comforting. It's not going to be a. So that nothing in the mechanism of their biology is going to drive them to it. They're going to have to acquire a taste for it. They're first going to have to know that it's the right thing to do to get into the pool of truth. And they're going to have to understand that just as a principle. And then they're going to have to understand that it's inevitable, that this is where the human race will go. And somebody's going to have to, if they don't jump, the future is going to have to jump. Somebody's going to have to jump. And then they can acknowledge that, yeah, maybe it's just best to get this over with. This sitting in the twilight zone of danger and threat isn't too smart. Um, and then even, I've sort of made the argument too that there's this idea of the straight line. And everybody can sort of understand that. And I think that's another argument that could be given to people, is that the more we waver and weave and play this game, the more that we increase the chances that we're not going to get where we're going. I mean, this is a fire, okay, that's burning, and you're driving the truck. Do you really want to waste time, stopping at Wendy's and fucking around, taking a bunch of side roads and trying some. Well, let's see if we can get there from there, and we'll go over to here because this is a wider road, and we'll play all these little games. Um, that's just not that's a strategy that's doomed to fail. Fail by default. Um, Maybe they're insecure about getting there. Um, I mean, they're afraid to face the fire, are afraid to face the fact that when they get there, they're not going to be able to do anything anyway. Um, but they're guaranteeing defeat. It's like this very elaborate retreat they have come up with. That's just a lie. It's still a retreat. If we're going to retreat, let's just wave the flag and retreat. Let's not play a game that there's some other possibility. So I've made these arguments in videos before, is that it's very hard to construct a future that includes all of this diversity and all of this conflict and all of this make up your own truth kind of stuff. Really isn't going to work in the world we're facing. And whether it's an anarchy by choice, I mean, whether we choose to get anarchical because we're choosing to destroy the functionality of our governments, um, it's going to happen by default from technology alone. Technology is going to introduce anarchy because it's going to make personal revolution very dangerous. Even small groups of people will become very, very dangerous. And it's just not going to be a sustainable future. There's going to be the shields we're going to have to put up against each other's freedom are going to be um, too expensive to maintain, too expensive in terms of the quality of our life, and too expensive just as a practical matter. We just can't afford the borders. We can't afford the countermeasures of let's throw everybody in prison, guilty until really, 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 really proven innocent. Yeah, there's. So I'm just saying, if you put all of these pieces together, the argument's there, and that's really at the point I'm at personally. Is yeah, it's just time to try to do that, and I have to devote some time to it, and I just haven't done that yet. So hopefully we'll get around to it in the next, whatever, 10 years. Um, and you just need a carrier in a way. We have to get lucky. Um, you have to make some preposterously stupid video. I don't know what you have to do. Maybe you have to go outside and actually eat bugs. Make a video where you eat a pile of dog shit so it gets on, it gets 4 million views on YouTube. And, tie the anti-natalist message into it somehow. But, I mean, I hate to say that these gimmicks are going to be required. Um, I guess I won't go there until you have to, but yeah, that's, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, and it's just getting enough people too to kind of force the conversation to a broader audience, to force, that's the right word, uh, to obligate. It's like fighting for, yeah, a third party fighting for the ability to be in the debates or something. You got to get enough energy where they can't deny you your voice anymore. And the mass media has to pay some attention, and that can come from people who aren't convinced. I mean, that can come from people who just think the conversation's important enough to be heard, and so in that sense, it can be done without everybody being totally convinced. Just people being totally convinced this is a conversation that needs to take place. That we do have to account for our existence, and it's stupid not to account for it and keep on investing in it. Um, if you don't know what it's going to do, then that's the definition of caution. People have every reason to be at least cautious and to respect the fact that maybe all this stuff needs to be talked out and talked out seriously, um, before we go into that brave new world, because uh, the stakes are high, really, really high. And we sort of seen it. I mean, in my own lifetime, I saw it. Who would have ever thought, the two tallest buildings in New York City were going to be knocked to the ground? I mean, where's the next? Where does it go? You know what I'm saying? What's Halloween 17 going to look like when it comes to New York City? What's the next? Um, Holy shit! I can't believe that happened. Thing going to be, and how many millions of people are going to be fucked over by it? This is real shit, and people have to understand that you can't keep just saying it doesn't matter, because what's in the balance is the welfare, the suffering of millions, perhaps billions of people, and we are going to dictate what the future will be. We'll dictate what the risk is and what the outcome is, and I mean, it's no point in even saying what the risk is. I mean, we will create the opportunity for risk. Um, we'll facilitate it. Maybe it's a better word. Um, and there has to be an accounting for that. Some sort of, well, maybe we ought to devote as much time to considering these questions as is devoted to um, designing these Super Bowls halftime spectacular. Maybe that much time, human energy, should be devoted to the question of whether or not this human equation has anywhere to go. This mess, and to think that even intellectuals can't think that, oh well, yeah, maybe that should be a priority. Maybe we should even talk about that. That we should actually spend money on obliging smart people to argue these questions in some sort of public forum, because it's fucking important. Really fucking important. Billions, trillions of consciousnesses held in the balance, and you fuckers are watching The View. Sorry, I forgot who I was talking to. But anyway, I'm going to run out of time. So, yeah, just a outside the box kind of effortless video. But it's doable. People, we understand it. We acquired the understanding. Yes, some of that required personal experience. But I think if you play the film for people, play them the movie, Life on Earth, really, really dumb. The message can be sent, and they'll just sit there. Holy shit, that fucking makes sense. Yeah, can't really argue with it, and they'll concede the point. I mean, they will. It is the future. It really is. There's nowhere for intelligence to go but to draw these conclusions, because there's just no little happy dancing elves out there, or whatever they're waiting for. The hokey pokey is not a great, it's just not a great dance. So anyway, till next time.